Hello, private thirst, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders. I am so excited. Today we have a special guest. Today we have Ann Carden. Ann is a top strategic business coach and marketing consultant. And Ann is actually a 3 times #1 best-selling author. She is a speaker and she's also the podcast host of The Strategic Edge. Ann has more than 41 years of business experience. And over the past 29 years, Ann has not only founded, but she has built 6 successful companies. And of those 6 that she's built, she's actually sold 5 of those. And Ann has a passion for educating professionals. And today she speaks, she hosts workshops, and she hosts seminars for speakers as well as for leaders. So today we're going to talk about building a legacy business, a business that you can scale that will exceed the life of you, a business that will be able to go on and really creating an exit strategy to create that business that will outlast you. So join me in welcoming Ann to our platform. Hi, Ann. How are you?
I am great. Thank you, Susanne, for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Well, I am excited to have you. I'm sure that, a lot of the times our viewers, they're building these great businesses, right? And it comes to a point that you have to ask yourself, what is my end game? What is my end game? How am I going to leave this business? How am I going to exit gracefully? And hey, why not make a profit out of it too on my exit strategy? So thank you, Ann, so much for coming and joining us today to talk about this topic.
Absolutely. I'm honored to be here. Thanks again.
So Ann, tell me about these 5 businesses that you sold and how you got into this.
Yes, so I actually left my corporate career after 13 years. I was in business management for a very large retail chain, and I had kids, and my husband and I made the decision that we were going to leave California, which is where we were living at that time, move back to the Midwest to raise our kiddos around family. And I left that corporate career and that corporate income. And all of a sudden I found myself outside of a small town in the country to raise my kids. And financially we started struggling. And so I started looking for a way to make some extra income. And that turned into my first business, which I did for 7 years. It went global. And that was before technology, before the internet. I did crafted dolls, and they were all unique, and they were signed and numbered. And I was in stores all across the country, and I was shipping them all over the world. And I was creating and designing my own patterns as well. And so when I finally, after 7 years, and I employed several people in that first business, other stay-at-home moms that wanted to work and wanted income. And after 7 years, I made the decision I wanted to leave that business, and I sold out to the pattern company, my designs and all of that. And I started up my second business, and it just kind of continued from there.
That is amazing. So an international doll company.
It
Wow.
was.
With a custom feel to it, right? Because,
Mhm.
they've got this special signature. That's just amazing of how you do that. And so a lot of business owners are wondering, how do I build a business that I can scale? What needs to go into making a business that not only that I can scale, but that I can sell, right? Tell me about it. Where do we get started? What's important? What's the first step with that?
Sure. Well, I think the first thing is to really understand that there's a difference in traditional growth methods for a business and scaling methods. And I know you're online, Susanne, as I am as well. And so we hear the word scale all the time, but I don't think a lot of small business owners and entrepreneurs really understand that there is a difference in growing a business and scaling a business. The best way to explain it is the traditional growth method is what people instinctively know to do. Market yourself, sell, and then deliver whatever it is you do. But that's not the same as scaling. That is a growth method that typically will keep your expenses going up at the same time, at the same rate, I should say, as the growth of your company. So a good example of this is, let's just say, a plumbing company. They start getting more customers. Now, what do they have to do? They have to get another truck. They have to get another plumber. They have to get, all of these other pieces in place. And so the expenses go up. Scaling is about making big financial leaps with higher profitability, more time and freedom in your life, less team. It's about getting more with less, really. So it's really about leveraging your resources along the way so that you can keep most of the money you make and you can make those bigger leaps. So I hope that helps. But a lot of people don't understand there is a difference. So as far as getting started in scaling, I have a 6-step formula that I really use and that I implement into people's businesses. And it starts with visualizing. You have to know where you are trying to go. And you should have both long-term and short-term goals. So for example, when I was building my second business, as I invested in that business, as I put more money into that business, the decisions that I made really were all made on, okay, what's the ROI? What's the return on my investment going to be if I add this to my business, or if I put this in my business when I sell it? So I knew at some point I was going to sell that business. And when you really have an idea what your exit strategy is going to be, or what your big vision for your company is going to be, it is going to streamline what you're doing. It's going to keep you focused, but it's also going to help you make the right decisions along the way. A lot of people get into business. This happens a lot with entrepreneurs. They get into business, they're kind of working the business, and all of a sudden they have this business they don't like. Right. And they're like, oh my gosh, there's no way I can go anywhere with this. Like, I'm exhausted. And that happens over and over again. But the same thing happens with business owners as well, just small business owners. So they don't really realize, I always say, build your McDonald's. And what that means is nothing's left to chance, right? Everything is systematized. Everything has processes. Everything is analyzed. And, you're consistently looking for ways to grow the business with less cost and with less time and effort. So it's really about a highly profitable business with freedom that someone else will want. And that's the thing, you have to build a turnkey business that someone else will want.
Exactly, because we have to avoid being caught in a entrepreneurship can easily become a job, right?
Oh,
You
yes.
can start yourself a job, right?
Yes.
And if you don't price it right, you
And
can make
most
less
do.
than a job, right?
Right. That's exactly right. And you understand the pricing is a huge piece of it. If they're not profitable, yes, you're going to stay in a job and you're going to be overworked and underpaid. So I think a lot of people don't, though, take the time at the very beginning to figure out, okay, where do I want this business to go? Like, what's my end game here? Or even what's my big game? I always say, do you want to franchise? Do you want to have multiple locations? Do you want to acquire other businesses? I interviewed a tech owner at one time, a business owner. His goal was to go from $1 million to $25 million in 5 years. Now, most people would say, there's no way, right? But he was going to do it all through business acquisition. He was going to buy out this, actually, he was already doing it, but he was going to buy out the little guys that already had client lists, that already had income coming in, but they weren't making money. Like, they had business, but they weren't making a profit. They weren't really making an income. So he would go buy their businesses, bring them in. He would pay them better than they were paying themselves. And he would also acquire all their clients. And he took competitors off the market that way. So it's a brilliant strategy. And I assume it has worked well for him, because I think he had gone from 1 to 5 very, very quickly. 1 to 5 million. So anyways, got a little off track there, but I think you do have to know, what do you want, for your business? What's that big vision, that big picture? From there, I say, okay, you have to look at, where are you now? What are you starting with? If you're a startup, what are you starting with? If you're already in business, how close am I to making that happen? What things do I need? What would I need to make that happen? And so figuring those things out at the beginning, I think, can really help people avoid a lot of the pitfalls and traps that they fall into as they're growing their business. And like I said, all of a sudden they find this business, that isn't getting them what they want, really, and not getting them the dream that they had when they first started. So those are the first 2 things. You want me to keep going?
Sure, but that's really interesting that you say that, because a lot of times when I meet with business owners, and it doesn't mean, and it doesn't matter if they're startup companies or they're several $1,000,000 into it in terms of revenue, you
Mm-hmm.
know, very few of them, because they love what they do, right? They love
Mm-hmm.
what they do. They get up every morning, they're making an impact, they're operating in their zone of genius. Very few of them realize that they are building an asset, that a
Yes.
business is an asset, right?
Yes.
And it's about building a value that somebody else wants.
Bingo.
And
Absolutely.
you're absolutely right, Anna. When you stop and create the vision of what your end game is going to be,
Mm-hmm.
you're able now to backwards kind of work into the strategy of where you want to go. So amazing, very good. And you're right. One of the quickest way, I mean, the fact that your client, right, acquired $5 million of other businesses, right, to increase his valuation. It just shows, right, that companies have a valuation. They're an
Yes.
asset. So, Ann, tell us, we were like waiting. What else do we need to do to be able to build businesses and sell?
Yes. So again, you want to build something turnkey. It has to be something. So when I sold all of my businesses, it was something that someone else, number one, it was making money. It was making good money. But it was something that someone else could easily step in and run. And I have to tell you, I look for businesses to buy as well. So I'm always looking for where's that opportunity that I can purchase and turn it around maybe, or do something different with the business to really scale it and then sell it. And that's a wealth strategy, and a lot of people who are doing well know that buying businesses can be a wealth strategy, and it can give people financial and personal freedom. So you have to build in that way, and you have to realize that. So build a turnkey system. Nothing is left to chance. So everything should, from even how the phone is answered, should have a system. It should have a process. You want everything to run and operate in such a way that, again, anyone can step in and just take over, and the business doesn't skip a beat. And so that's a really, really key component. So once you visualize and analyze, I'm giving you my formula here. Now you want to really set up the game plan and the roadmap. Okay, what do I need? What am I missing? What are the steps that I'm going to have to take? So I call it strategize, and lay out really the plan of how you're going to achieve that. And then if you have an existing business, there's a really powerful thing that I do when I go in and work with clients, and that is I look for where the money is right now that we can capture. So I call this the monetize step. And this is really, there's business lane, and from being a CPA, there's business lane everywhere in a business. And most people don't understand the 50 or 75 strategies to capture that money that's laying around that they could be making. And so businesses typically are leaving a lot of money on the table, and they think their way to growth is market, right? And it's not. Like, that's what you have to do in the beginning. But as you get an established business, now you have to, marketing is a piece of it. But if your marketing's not working, it's just burning up money. And so now you need to look for the money opportunities and the money leaks. And so look for the ways that you can capture money right now. And again, a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners, they're not consistently following the money or looking for the money. And that is that's a huge component when you're growing a business. I tell my clients this all the time. Don't take your eyes off the money. What you are doing in your business, because it's really easy to get stuck in the weeds, and it's really easy to get overwhelmed and go down rabbit holes and get off course. Keep your eye on the money. Watch your numbers, understand how to run your business by the numbers, understand how to make the shifts and the pivots that you need to, but you don't take your eye off the money. So that's the whole strategy put together, basically. But the minute you do that, you're going to have leaks, you're going to be wasting, you're not going to be making what you could be. So in business is about making money, right? It's about profitability. And like you said, building an asset. And so if you have everything that you do in your business as an owner is either moving you towards your goals and towards the money, or it's taking you away from them. And that's just a really simple way to assess your time, to assess what you're spending time on. I always say, ask yourself this question: is what I'm doing right now moving me towards the money? Is it moving me towards my goal, moving me towards my vision? If not, you need to take a step back and recalibrate. So monetize, and then optimize. And that is where you're consistently improving, implementing systems and processes. There are 6 areas in business that I really show people what they need to optimize. And then you're consistently working to keep those things optimized. And then the maximize phase, that's where you're expanding. That's where you're adding revenue streams and income streams and profit centers and all of those things, buying businesses, by acquiring your competitors. That's where all of those things come in the maximize stage. The maximize is where you really get that explosive growth. The problem is a lot of people in business go right to that. it's like, I'm going to add this, I'm going to add this. This is what I'm going to do to make more money. And what they end up with is, if your business is chaotic right now, add some more because it is going to continue to be even more chaotic. You're just really, you're not helping anything. You're just adding to problems, to stress. So you've got to get all those other 5 steps in place first and get a smooth operating business that's making money. And then now it's time to really expand and scale and grow.
I love that. That's some amazing advice. So thank you, Anne, for that. That
You're
is really,
welcome.
really good. So many juicy nuggets of really important things with that. And I want to talk a little bit about, in terms of like, where do businesses get stuck in the scaling process? Where do they
Mhm.
get to a point where it's hard for them to move beyond? And I can see several different areas from what you've talked about, but tell me, from what your experience is, what are the biggest areas where entrepreneurs tend to get stuck, where they're prohibited from scaling, where they're stuck in a job? Where does that happen at?
I think that's a really great question, because everyone has startup, right? So they start up and then they're doing their thing. I always say, when you get to a place where you are doing more than 10 to 12 hours a week on the thing, the delivery, then you are already stuck. You're already losing money in your business. One of the things that people need to realize is that business costs money. And so you can do things that, yeah, obviously leverage your resources. But one of the mistakes that I see entrepreneurs make a lot is they start their business and they want to try to do it all. They try to be the marketer, and they try to be the financial person, and they try to be, they try to be the salesperson, and they try to do everything in their business, when really the thing that they're the best at is the thing that made them start their business to begin with. And so what you have to do is, you have to realize, okay, you might be good at your thing, but are you good at business? Are you good at understanding finance, business finance? Are you good at marketing? Are you good at sales? And I do think you need to become knowledgeable in all of those areas, so that you're not taken advantage of. And so you're not just turning over your business to people, and you don't have any idea if they know what they're doing or not, right? And so then they're just taking your money. A good example of this is, I remember in my second business, I didn't really know how to market. I mean, I burned up hundreds of thousands of dollars in marketing, and I hired a marketing agency, and I thought she probably knew more than I did. Come to find out, she was as bad as I was. And, I was paying her several $100s a month to market my business. And I just really threw my money away. And so it was after, several years of doing that I said, okay, I think I need to learn how to market my business. So that's one of the things that I recommend, is that people do learn the different aspects, because as your company grows, as your team grow, you want to have enough knowledge and skills to be able to know, okay, who would be the right person to bring me in to help me, or bring in to help me with this. You want to have that foundational knowledge at least. You don't have to become an expert, but you need to know the fundamentals of what make things work the way they work. And then don't try to do everything yourself. So once you really understand the fundamentals of business, the fundamentals of sales, the fundamentals of marketing, and the pieces that really make up a business, now you need to let go of some of those things, and you need to hire, and you need to get out of your own way, because ultimately that's what people do in their businesses. They just stay in their own way, and it keeps them stuck.
Oh yeah, I can definitely see that. And that's an interesting concept that you bring about, is don't allow any area in your business to be a blind spot for you.
That's a
There's
great way to say it too. I like
yeah.
that. I'm going to have to steal that one.
So many entrepreneurs that I meet, they're very comfortable with just immediately finding someone else to do it, right? And
Mm,
and so they fail to understand the basics of how it's done. And
mhm.
so, like you said, if you don't know how long it takes to do something, or you don't truly understand it, you really allow yourself to fall victim, right, to someone
Exactly.
that like you said, may not know what they're doing, or maybe
Mhm,
overcharging you for it, or telling you that it's a really, really hard project when it's not. So at least that basic
mhm.
understanding and just continual growth. I really love how you're saying that. I think that's a really good advice. One of the things that you mentioned prior to that too was looking for the low hanging fruit, looking for
Yes.
easy money. And how do we find the easy money in our businesses?
Oh gosh, there are so many ways. Literally, there are 50 to 75 ways. So I know one of the things you do as a CPA, as a financial advisor, you're really helping people keep their expenses low and, cut costs and find areas where maybe they're losing money or where they're spending money they don't need to spend. All of those things. Now, those are the same things that I do when I go in and work with the business, but there are a lot of other areas too. So for example, getting their marketing working better, getting a better return on their investment, spending less in their marketing. But also, are you tapping things like your database? So the first thing I look at when I go into a business is, okay, where can we capture some money right now? So I'm going to look at things like their expenses, obviously. I'm going to look at their pricing. I'm going to look at the profitability. How is their profit structured? I'm going to look at their marketing. Let's look at what kind of an ROI or return on investment you're getting in your marketing. I'm thinking about one of my clients that I went in to work with. He had a business that he was spending about $145,000 a year on marketing. And his business was at about $1.5 million. And most people would say, well, that's not too bad of a percentage, right? I think it's too high because his business wasn't making any money from the marketing. It was break even. It was just cash flow. And basically what he was doing was just keeping his people employed. Now, if some people like that, that's okay. That's not the way I like to run a business. I want it making money. I want my marketing to print money for me. And so what we did is we went in and they didn't have a tracking and measuring system in place, but they were doing lots of things. And so we went in and the first thing we had to do was put a tracking and measuring system in place. So we could see what is this bringing in and what is this bringing in and how many leads are coming in from this angle. And then how many of those turn into appointments and how many of those turn into actual closed sales and how much are those closed sales. And so when we put all of that in place, we were so easily able to identify where he was wasting money in his marketing. So long story short, we gave him a market dominating position. So we positioned him in the marketplace as against everyone else. And so his phone doubled. They doubled their phone calls. But we also were able to cut his marketing expense. And over the course of a year, we doubled his business. Now, it wasn't all from marketing, but we put $45,000 in profits back to his bottom line just from his marketing. Just from marketing. And he went from break even to he was getting an 1,800% return on every dollar spent. So for every dollar, he was getting $1,800 back. That's printing money, right? And so that's low hanging fruit. I mean, that is a way that you can capture money immediately. Your sales process. What's your sales conversion? If your sales conversion is at 25% and you can raise that to 40%, you have just printed money without spending anything more. So those are just a couple of things.
Wow, that's neat. So looking at the ROI and looking at your metrics and figuring out where we need to tweak those metrics at and our behaviors, because the metrics tell us behaviors we need to change, right?
Yes, absolutely.
That is really, really good. In terms of like tips that you have for our viewers and listeners, that are looking to scale their businesses, eventually exit their business, what would be the biggest tip or advice? And it doesn't necessarily have to be over that topic, but what would be that one thing you would want to leave our viewers and listeners with?
I would have to say, well, probably two things, but run your business by the numbers. The numbers don't lie, right? Unless you're lying about the numbers. I guess there is that, but
That happens.
It does happen. It does. Run your business by the numbers and really understand the numbers. So one of the things that I see a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners do is they turn their financials over to someone like yourself, right? And they count on that person to sort of guide them, except that a lot of times that's history. That doesn't help you moving forward necessarily. It's not giving you strategies to move forward. It's what already happened. And so it's really important that you're consistently, again, looking for those big leaps, those big growth opportunities that are very cost effective, don't take a lot to implement. So that would be the first thing, is run your business by the numbers. But the second thing is don't get stuck in your business. Build a business that can run without you. I mean, the best business is one that can run and grow without you. And you can choose. Some people say, well, I love what I do. Well, then wouldn't it be better to choose that you want to kind of get in there and play with graphic design than to have to? And that's what your whole business is built around. Because again, your business can't scale if you're stuck in the weeds. It just can't. There's no way. You know, my businesses grew when I stepped out of doing the thing and I started operating and running the business, managing the team, building my team, looking for innovative ways to grow my company and my businesses. So you have to have that mindset. That's what your role is in your business.
You guys got that. Ann says that if you're spending more than 10 to 12 hours doing the thing, you've outgrown the thing. So stop doing the thing, get someone else to do the thing so you can do other things, right? To move the business forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I guess my biggest tip, get a coach or a consultant to work with. It's your fastest path. You can take the horse and buggy to your success and try to figure everything out yourself, and which is the slow route, or you can take the jet plane. And that means leveraging other people's knowledge, skills, and expertise. It's the fastest path.
Oh yeah, just to have a set of eyes, right?
Yes.
Sometimes when you're doing a thing and it's 10 and 12 hours of doing the thing, you're too tired to see what's broken in the thing.
Absolutely.
And sometimes having that oversight, someone that's looking outside, looking inward, it just helps tremendously.
Well, and you don't know everything and you can't know everything. Like even now, I've been doing business for 41 years. I'm still learning every single day. I'm still learning new things, new innovation, things that can, you know, that's why today you see more younger. What was the statistic I saw just a couple of weeks ago? 85% now of millionaires are under 30. That's amazing. So if you think about that, the opportunity is there. But these kids, it's like they kind of already know, I need to get help with this. They don't, I know the old way of doing business is, and I still see this with people who have been in business for many years, is I'm going to, you know, figure this out myself. And they act like they know everything. And you can't. That's why millionaires work with billionaires. They mastermind and they are mentored by billionaires, because you can't know everything or you would already be there, right? You would already be at that level. It's really a blessing that we have people like myself and like you who can help people along the way, and really they can leverage what we've already accomplished and the mistakes we've made and the pitfalls we've already been through. They don't have to do all that themselves. Oh gosh, I wish I would have had a me or a you know, years ago when I started my businesses.
You know, Malcolm Gladwell says that it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert.
Yes.
And as an entrepreneur, you can spend 10,000 hours learning all these different aspects of your business, or you can hire it really quick and get 10,000 hours of knowledge, right? To tell your business forward at a much quicker pace. So you're right. Yes. Getting help, getting that coach, getting that consultant in can make a major difference in propelling your business forward quicker and faster.
Absolutely. I think probably, and I don't say that just because I am a coach or consultant. I really, truly am speaking from my heart and from experience when I say, I wish I would have had someone all the years I was growing my business. I actually became a coach and a consultant because what my last two businesses, I couldn't get them be on break even. They were brand new and I was kind of struggling. And that's when I came up on a coach. Like I didn't even know what she could do for me. And I remember crying, you know, when I hired her, because I really didn't know what she could do for me. But I knew I needed help. Even though I'd built these other businesses and I'd sold them, but it was a marketing thing. It was all a marketing problem. It wasn't that I didn't know how to build businesses. I just didn't know marketing the way I needed to. And she was brilliant. And she turned things around in 30 days. And when I said, oh my gosh, this is amazing, I all of a sudden became really passionate about, wow, I want to help other people do this, you know? So, I mean, that was several years later that I did that, but it was such a game changer for me that that's why I'm just so passionate when I see people trying to do everything themselves and they just don't understand the value. I wish I could take it out of my head and put it in their head and shake them a little bit and say, you know, you should just do this the easier way and just get an expert to help you, get someone that has this knowledge.
I like what you said about your client, right? right? He had $1 million business and he wanted to be a $5 million business. And
Mhm.
he could have spent the hours and the effort to figure it out of how to grow a $5 million business, or he could acquire the know-how, the capital, the infrastructure of ones that already existed. And that was a much faster way for him to get where he was
Yes.
going, right? And just to fix what's broken. So you're definitely right. Definitely use the know-how and the intangible capital that others bring to the table.
hmm
So
Yeah.
it's really
And
nice.
actually, by business acquisition is one of the scale strategies I use. So when I work with a business and they really get to a place where they're very profitable and now they've got all this cash flow and they've got money that they really need to do something with, okay, now let's really explode your business. But oddly enough, they're usually able to go buy their competitors, and we're able to really come up with very clever and innovative ways for them to buy their competitors for literally almost nothing and just pay cash. And all of a sudden, they've just acquired this company, all the assets, all the people that are already trained, and even a lot of times even the owner if they want that. So it's a really fast scale strategy to do that.
I love that. That is really good. And I'm just curious. I know that I want to be respectful of your time, but if you're looking to acquire a business or I guess sell your business,
Mhm.
where do you start? How do you find that person, that broker, that connection to make that happen for you?
So, first of all, I've done it both ways. So, I've worked with a broker on a couple of my businesses, and I also self sold on a couple of my businesses. And I don't think there is a right or wrong way. One, you're going to give up a lot of time, and the other, you're going to give up money. So, when that business actually sells, so if you go through a broker, number one, you're going to get a lot of the professional stuff done for you. They're going to show your place, or your business, or they're going to find the buyers. They're going to basically do all the legwork for you. So that's one avenue, but you're going to give up a percentage, typically 10 to 12% of that sale to sell that business. The other side of that is if you want to do it yourself, you're still going to have to find buyers. Now, there are a lot of biz sell sites that you can go to with social media. There are a lot of ways. One thing that I tell people to do is if they want to sell their business themselves, reach out to your competition. They're the first ones that will probably scoop it up if they have a need for it. So always go to your competitors first and give them the opportunity to buy your business, because really what you really want, you want the money that comes from that and the freedom that comes from that. So it doesn't really matter to you, who buys that business. And a lot of times, and here's a really good tip for people: don't get so heart attached to your business that you don't want to like your child, right? I have done that. I remember the first business, actually I should say the second business, when I was getting ready to sell they were my businesses and I was the one that was doing all the work. But, my husband was obviously involved when we had a buyer. And I remember saying, I don't feel like, I feel like, I should be able to get more. Well, the reality is there is a formula for being able to sell businesses, but I was like, emotionally attached, right? And so I thought it should have been worth 20 times what it was worth. And so that's the thing that you have to realize too, is you can't get emotionally attached so that you say, yeah, I don't want to sell it to you. Now, I do think that, you do want to, if you care about the legacy of that business, then you do want to make sure that you're somewhat careful about the buyer. But for the most part, that's not really what people are thinking. They're not thinking, what if this person, runs my business into the ground? They're not thinking that. They're just thinking, this is my baby and I don't want to let go of it. So you have to drop the emotional attachment. It's just a business. You can go make another one and another one and another one if you want to.
Good advice
So,
on that. Definitely. I know for our accounting firm, it's the same age as my daughter. They're like twins,
uh-huh.
They're
I
the
love
same
it.
age, the other side. And and you're right, for some of us, I guess you have to think about that when you name your business, don't name it after your name, right?
Right.
It's going to make it
Right.
harder to part with that.
It's
But
okay if you're a coach and that's your brand and that's what you're building for your business, but you should still have a corporation or something. But no, that's a good point that you make. Yes.
Definitely. This was such a wonderful conversation. And I'm sure some of our viewers and listeners are going to want to continue this conversation with you, Anne. And how can our viewers and our listeners reach you? What's the best way to contact you?
Well, you can absolutely find me on LinkedIn or on Facebook. I'm all over the place. I also have a YouTube channel. So you can just search my name. Actually, if you just Google my name, you'll find a lot of things. But if you want to actually get my 6-step formula for scaling to millions and building a business that you can really leverage and even exit someday, then you can grab the video series. I have a 4-part video series that actually walks you through that process, and come with a pen and paper because I give you strategies to capture immediate money. But you can go to scalelikeaboss.com and grab those videos. And there's also a workbook that you can grab along with that as well. And then that will walk you through my process.
That is awesome. So to reach Ann Carden, and just so you guys, I am going to put that in the show notes for you so that you can locate her contact information. But it's Ann spelled ANN. So ANN, no E on that, and Carden, 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 for those of you guys who are reaching out on LinkedIn, and www.scalelikeaboss.com for the tips on how to scale and grow your business so that you can leave a legacy business one day. Thank you, Ann, for joining us today.
You are welcome. Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
Thank you.
I love talking about my passion. I love business.
And we love listening to it. So please feel free to share anytime.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.